What would happen if the person you least expected was the key to your redemption? Alex Carter, a successful businessman in New York, always believed that a person's worth was directly linked to their status and appearance. To him, Sophie Evans, his administrative assistant, was just a humble young woman with no prospect of greatness. In his world of luxury and power, Alex despised those who did not share his wealth and privilege. However, what he didn't know was that Sophie was keeping a secret that could change everything. Sophie grew up on a small farm in Kansas, where her parents, although simple, always encouraged her to dream big. She has always stood out for her intelligence and dedication, drawing up plans for a better future. However, his job as an assistant at Alex's company was full of challenges. Every day she faced the mockery and coldness of a boss who saw no value in her humble origins. Still, Sophie held her head high, dreaming of a day when her true potential would be recognized. During a tense meeting, when Sophie suggested an innovative idea, Alex publicly dismissed her, laughing at her plain appearance and her need to try to stand out in an environment he considered reserved only for the best. The humiliation hurt her, but she decided it was not the time to react. Instead, Sophie remembered her childhood, her parents' teachings about humility and perseverance. She knew she had a greater purpose. A few days later, Alex received an invitation to a gala in Manhattan, where he was met with an unexpected sight. Sophie was there, not as an assistant, but as a special guest. Her presence lit up the room, and everyone around her treated her with respect. Alex couldn't believe that the young woman he had mocked was now one of the new potential investors, daughter of a powerful technology family. The party turned into a confrontation. Alex, overcome by curiosity and the need to redeem himself, approached Sophie and offered his apology. With a steady gaze and a dignified posture, Sophie didn't hesitate to tell him that he should treat everyone with respect, regardless of their appearance or status. She revealed that she had considered investing in his company, but after witnessing how he treated his employees, she decided it wasn't a good idea. With that, she said goodbye, leaving Alex in shock and reflecting on his choices. Sophie's true identity had been revealed, and with it, a powerful lesson in empathy and respect. Alex Carter was stunned. Sophie's words resonated in his mind, like an echo of a truth he had always ignored. He watched her walk away, her confident figure getting lost in the gala crowd. At that moment, Alex realized that his limited view of people had trapped him in a bubble of superficiality. He always believed that success was measured by wealth and appearance. Now he found himself confronted with a reality that challenged all his beliefs. In the days that followed, Alex couldn't concentrate. Instead of working on new projects, he found himself thinking about Sophie. The way she stood firm, even in the face of contempt, intrigued him. He began to question his own choices and the impact his actions had on others. However, change was not easy. Alex was so used to treating people like objects that the idea of Etch opening up and acknowledging his flaws seemed scary. But life didn't stop. The climate in the company began to change. Investors were concerned about the company's financial results and image. Alex found himself under pressure to present a new project that would not only impress shareholders, but also regain the trust of his team. His reputation was at stake, and he needed a brilliant idea. The only thing he knew was that Sophie had a brilliant mind. But how could he bring her back to the team after what had happened? Meanwhile, Sophie was also struggling with her own demons. After the party, she received several calls from interested investors, but something was stopping her from moving forward. The humiliation she suffered at Alex's hands was still fresh in her memory. She wondered if she should give a second chance to someone who had treated her so badly. Her friends, who supported her, encouraged her to move forward and not let herself be carried away by grudges. But doubt consumed her. Would it be possible for someone like Alex to change? Alex and Sophie crossed paths again when he decided to look for Sophie. He needed an idea, and more importantly, he needed to understand what really mattered. He found her in a coffee shop reviewing some investment proposals. When he saw her, his heart accelerated. He approached hesitantly and asked to talk. Sophie looked at him, considering whether or not she should give it one more chance. The conversation started tensely. Alex sincerely apologized, explaining that he was determined to change the way he saw the world. He wanted to learn from Sophie, not just about business, but about life. She, in turn, was skeptical. I knew that many people promised changes, but few actually followed through. However, there was something about his sincerity that made her hesitate. As the conversation unfolded, they began discussing business ideas. Sophie, with her innovative vision, presented a concept that could revolutionize the way the company connected with the public. Alex found himself involved, feeling a new energy, but tension still hung in the air. He knew he needed to prove to Sophie that he was willing to change, but how could he do that? In the meantime, the challenges increased. One of Alex's main investors, a powerful and ruthless man, began to pressure him to take a more conventional and less ethical route. Alex found himself at a crossroads, forced to choose between maintaining the status quo and following the path Sophie had proposed. He wanted to make the right choice, but he was also afraid of losing everything he had built. However, the pressure was starting to take a toll on his mental health. The sleepless nights and constant worry began to take a toll. Alex began to feel isolated. Even though he was surrounded by people who admired him, the relentless pursuit of success took him away from friends and family, and now he was more alone than ever. Sophie, on the other hand, began to realize that Alex's change was genuine. She saw how he fought against external pressures and how he tried to stay true to his new principles. Their friendship began to blossom, but not without difficulties. There were disagreements about the direction they should take, and the differences in their origins often appeared as an obstacle. One night, while working on a project together, a heated argument broke out. Sophie, frustrated, stated that Alex still had a lot to learn about empathy and respect. Alex, in turn, felt like he was doing the best he could, but he couldn't express himself correctly. The tension that had built over time threatened to destroy what had begun to form between them. But, amid the conflict, something changed. They sat down, took a deep breath, and started talking. Alex shared his insecurities, his fears of failing and being judged again. Sophie, listening to him, saw a different man from the one who had once mocked her. They realized that they were both fighting their own internal battles, and that personal overcoming required not only strength but also vulnerability. From that moment on, Alex and Sophie began to work together in a more collaborative way, respecting each other's opinions. They realized that their differences, far from being barriers, were the key to something bigger. Their journey was just beginning, and the challenges they would face would still be many. But now, together, they were ready to overcome them. Alex was deep in thought as he walked through the city that morning. The sun was shining, but he felt shrouded in dark clouds. The investor meeting was approaching, and the pressure was weighing on his shoulders. He knew he needed to present an innovative project, something that would not only impress shareholders, but also reflect the new vision he had begun to develop with Sophie. However, the doubt hovered in his mind. Would he really be able to change? At that moment, an unexpected phone call interrupted his thoughts. He was one of his mentors, a man who had always guided him in the company's decisions. The conversation quickly became tense. The mentor expressed his concern about the new direction Alex was taking. He emphasized that ethics and innovation were important, but that financial success could not be ignored. Alex felt his heart speed up. The mentor's words echoed in his mind, and he realized he was at a critical point. After the call, Alex found himself in a dilemma. He could take his mentor's advice and move away from Sophie's ideas, embracing a more conventional approach that would ensure quick results. However, that would mean betraying not only Sophie, but also the new person he was striving to become. He stopped in front of a glass mirror in a store and looked at himself. The image reflected was not just that of a businessman. It was from someone who was seeking redemption. However, what should have been a moment of reflection soon turned into a nightmare. Upon returning to the company, Alex received devastating news. One of the main investors, who had promised to support the new vision, decided to withdraw his investment. He claimed that he did not feel confident with the new approach and that he preferred to stick with what was already known and tested. The news hit Alex like a punch in the gut. He felt a chill down his spine as he realized that all the work he had done with Sophie was falling apart. The meeting that followed was unbearable. Alex sat at the table with the other investors, trying to hide his dismay. He presented his ideas, but the energy that once drove him was absent. The suspicious looks and incisive questions made him even more insecure. He knew that the confidence he had gained was quickly dissipating. Sophie, who was at his side, noticed the change in his behavior. She tried to encourage him, but Alex was stuck in his thoughts. What should have been teamwork became an internal struggle. He was questioning his choices, his vision for the future, and most importantly, what success really meant to him. The mentor's words reverberated in his mind, confusing him even more. Deep down, he knew that true change required courage, but now he felt like a failure. When the meeting ended, Alex left the room without looking back. He needed time to think, to process everything that was happening. He headed to a nearby park, where he sat on a bench trying to find clarity. Frustration and sadness invaded him. He began to wonder if he really was capable of changing, if the promises he had made to himself and Sophie were just illusions. As he lost himself in his thoughts, his mind began to wander to memories of his interactions with Sophie. He remembered the sparkle in her eyes when she spoke about her ideas, the passion with which she defended her principles. Alex realized that real change wasn't just in changing the course of the company, but in changing himself. He couldn't just worry about other people's opinions. He needed to connect with what really mattered to him. With this new perspective, Alex decided he couldn't let the fear of failure paralyze him. He needed to face his fears and be honest with himself and with Sophie. That afternoon, he felt more determined than ever to reconnect with the essence of what he had learned. He stood up from the bench, feeling a new purpose. Your past mistakes would not define you. He had the opportunity to rewrite his story. With that in mind, Alex returned to the office, where he knew the conversation with Sophie would be difficult but necessary. He was ready to face the consequences of his choices and, more importantly, to open himself to a new vision of success, one that included not just financial results, but also integrity and authenticity. Alex was determined to face his challenges. When he returned to the office, he felt a mix of anxiety and hope. He knew the conversation with Sophie would be difficult, but he was ready to be honest. Upon entering the room, he found her focused on a report. Her expression changed when she saw him, but Alex didn't have the courage to hide her emotional state. "Sophie, we need to talk," he began, his voice shaky. She looked at him closely, noticing that something was different. Alex expressed his concerns, talked about the pressure he felt and how his mentor's words had shaken him. However, he also shared the new perspective he had found that day in the park. He didn't just want to take a safe path. He wanted to be true to himself and to her. Sophie listened to every word, her gaze softening as Alex spoke. She always believed in his vision, but understood the difficulties he was facing. "Alex, I know this path is difficult, but true innovation comes from the courage to take risks," she replied, encouraging him. The conversation turned into a sincere exchange of feelings and fears, and Alex realized he was not alone on this journey. With Sophie's support, Alex began to see his flaws in a new way. He understood that every mistake was a learning opportunity. Instead of letting the loss of his investment get him down, he decided to use this experience as fuel for his determination. He remembered conversations he had with Sophie about the importance of having a positive impact on society, not just the balance sheet. Gradually, Alex began to rebuild his vision for the company. Together with Sophie, they developed a new plan that combined innovation and ethics. They dedicated themselves to developing projects that not only generated profit, but also contributed to the community. This new approach not only revitalized their ideas, but also strengthened their friendship and mutual respect. Over time, Alex realized that true success was not just measured in numbers, but in the ability to make a difference. He learned to value relationships, collaboration, and the positive impact they could have on people's lives. This personal transformation was reflected in all areas of his life, making him feel more connected with his purpose. The difficulties he faced shaped him into someone stronger and more resilient. He was ready for new challenges, now with a new vision. Life was no longer just about winning or losing, but about growing and learning at every step. This journey of overcoming not only transformed him, but also inspired those around him, showing that true wealth lies in the experiences and relationships we cultivate along the way. Alex was in the office, surrounded by documents and graphs that once seemed promising but now represented his flaws. He needed to present the new plan to the board, and the pressure was unbearable. The voices of his colleagues echoed in his mind, questioning his ability to lead. The fear of failing again consumed him, but he knew he couldn't give up. It was time to show everyone that he had changed. Upon entering the meeting room, Alex felt the weight of the stairs. The atmosphere was tense, and he could feel the anticipation in the air. With a deep sigh, he began to explain his new project. He talked about innovation and ethics, about how the company could make a difference in the community. However, as the words left his mouth, he realized that insecurity was still with him. His nervousness was increasing, and he hesitated when looking at the board. It was then that he remembered his conversations with Sophie, the support she always offered him. A warmth rose in his chest, and he decided he would no longer hide his vulnerabilities. "I've failed before," he admitted, "but I've learned that true success isn't just about profits. It's about the impacts we can have on people's lives." His voice was firm now, and the sincerity in his words began to change the atmosphere in the room. The board members exchanged glances. Alex saw a slight nod of approval, a sign that his speech was resonating. He realized that regardless of the outcome, he had found his voice. He was no longer fighting just for himself, but for something bigger. This realization filled him with new strength. The fear that once dominated his heart now turned into determination. He was ready to face whatever came next. Alex realized that true success would not just be measured in numbers, but in the connections he could create and the lives he could impact. At the end of the performance, he felt an inexplicable relief. The board, touched by the sincerity of his words, began asking questions and making suggestions, showing genuine interest in his new plan. Alex's journey changed him. He learned to embrace his failures and see them as opportunities for growth. His friendship with Sophie helped him understand that vulnerability is not a weakness, but a powerful strength. With each step, he felt more confident and more connected to the company's purpose. With a smile on his face, Alex left the room, knowing that regardless of the outcome, he had achieved something valuable, the courage to be authentic. For him, this was just the beginning of a new era. And now, how about reflecting on your own experiences? How have you learned from your failures? Share your stories in the comments and help create a community where everyone can learn and support each other. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring content like this. The time to act is now.